Oh, good morning. Today we're off to the west coast to see a breed specialist of Lhasa Apsos, which has been established in this breed for many years, so it should be very interesting. Good afternoon. Today we've come to Wallasey in Merseyside to interview Mr. Ken Warrington. Good afternoon, Ken.
Good afternoon, Mr. Poole. Stop me.
Do you mind before we start, if I mind asking how old you are?
I'm 82.
So you should have a lot of things to talk about. Have you always had dogs?
I was born and bred with them.
What was your first dog?
My first dog was a little mongrel.
As the word.
Because by then, the Alsatians had gone that my mum and dad had. And I had a little mongrel who was called Tim. And then my second dog was a cross Welsh terrier who, in actual fact, his mother's father was Sandstorm Saracen, who had Best in Show at Crufts.
Amazing.
A long, long time ago.
A long, long time ago. When did you first become involved with Lhasa Apsos? What got you interested in them?
Well, having had other breeds, and I had poodles, and a lady called Mrs. Conn said to me, Ken, have you got 10 years to serve an apprenticeship? I said no. She said, well, get out while the going's good. Look for a new breed. I did a couple of shows. I found 3 children playing with 2 Apsos that were tied down on those things that screw into the ground.
The pegs.
And they were all the five of them were all happy. And then eventually the 3 children disappeared in different directions because I thought they were related, but they just met at the show.
Just random children.
The 2 dogs didn't even belong to the same person. And I thought, is that the temperament on Apsos? That will do me.
So where did you get your first Apso from?
That was hard work.
Now there lies a tale.
That was hard work. In actual fact, I got the first one via Margot Cook because it was by Ego Shale, her dog. And he was born in Catterick Camp. The bitch was owned by the people that ran the NAFI in Catterick Camp. I went up and bought this gold dog called Breccia Funth. Funth being 5 because he was the 5th puppy. And then I entered him to his first champ show and got to the show, was getting in the ring, and Mrs. Conn, who I mentioned earlier, was there, and she said, you've got a new breed, Ken. And I said, yes. She said, right, I'll watch.
Who was the judge, do you remember?
I can't remember.
I can't
remember. I can have that feeling it was George Leart.
So did you get placed?
I had him in first class, came out with a red card. I gave it to Mrs. Conn to look after. I went back in the second class, came out with a red card, gave that to Mrs. Conn, went in his third class, came out with a red card, and Mrs. Conn said, you've got no more classes, have you? No, as she said, well, enjoy yourself in the challenge. And I said, yes, I will. Not that we did a thing in the challenge. But the funniest part about it was I was trying to get my hands on a bitch. Now, you try and get a bitch in those days.
There weren't the numbers around like there were today, were there?
Well, there wasn't hundreds of puppies being born. And I had 2 bitch puppies offered to me. And arrangements were being made as to when I could go down to see both these puppies. And it was quite fascinating, really, because I came out of the ring with my 3rd red card with my dog puppy. And those bitches had been taken off the market.
Good grief.
They weren't available to me.
I'm surprised.
And I thought, on your bike, that's life, we'll get something.
So where did you go to then, eventually?
I eventually spoke to Thelma Morgan.
Yes, good old Thelma.
Who I refer to as the late and great Thelma Morgan.
Very much so. Very well.
Because if anybody wanted to know anything about the breed, you went to Thelma.
Yes.
And Thelma was willing to teach you. Hence, Glenn knows what she's doing because she was born and bred with them.
This is Thelma's daughter, Glenys Dalton.
Yeah, that's Glenys. So I'm going back.
Yes, how many years?
I got Breccia Funth, who was Gold Dog, and I got him in January 1970. So I've been around
forever.
A little number of years now.
A few
Not
years.
long.
A few years, shall we say.
Yes.
A few years.
If I stay in the breed longer, I might learn something about the breed.
So when did you get your prefix then?
Well, I had that before.
Did you?
Because I had that with poodles.
Piplaurie.
Sorry?
Piplaurie.
Piplaurie.
Lorry. Where did you get that from?
That was my 2 nephews, Philip and Lawrence.
As easy as that.
And they used to call one another Pip, and the other one used to call his brother Laurie.
Yeah. Piplaurie.
So I just joined it together. And hey presto. Oh, I even had it on a border collie.
Did you?
Which I used to work in obedience.
So when did you have your first litter then?
In the 70s, because Thelma Morgan said that Mrs. Ward at Wem in Shropshire had a litter. And I rang and made arrangements to go and see her, for which I did. And I chose a puppy out of the litter, but it wasn't. They weren't old enough to go then. And eventually, it was when it was time I could go and collect. I rang and I made an appointment to go down the next morning and collect puppy. And I got greeted with, "I don't know whether you'll want it or not."
Why was that?
And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, the gypsies broke in last night and stole all my puppies.
Oh my goodness.
And I've got yours." Because one of my tenant farmers found it trying to swim in a ditch. This is an 8-week-old puppy. So he brought it and he thought, "I know where this belongs." So he took it straight round to Mary, and she dried it off and looked after it until I got there. And I said, "Yeah, I still want her." So I paid my...
How much?
Oh, it was expensive.
I can imagine.
I paid £15 for her.
Terrible. Shocking.
Which was outlandish.
Outlandish.
And of course, in those days, if somebody said, "What breed is that?" if you said it's a Lhasa Apso, then they'd say, well, what do you do? Take 2 disciplines and go to bed, if that's what you've got.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew what you were talking about.
You used to go, when we used first had them, we used to go Lhasa Apso, and they used to go, Lhasa what?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
then you'd have to explain everybody you spoke to.
let's be honest, in those days, you could do the local shows, and on many occasions I was asked, when I put this on the table,
and exactly what you're going to say.
and the judge would look at me and say, what breed is it?
Or more often than not, they used to say, will you bring your Shih Tzu out?
Oh yes, that was a favourite one. But you got, I remember on one occasion being asked by a lady who was supposed to have had a brilliant reputation as an all-round judge. And she said to me, what breed is it? And I said to her, sorry madam, if you don't know what breed it is, then you shouldn't be there judging.
Well, it's true, isn't it? It's true. But people forget there were very unusual breeds in them days. It wasn't a well-known breed. It's not like
And
now.
they were anything but what they look like now.
Do you feel
Because
I was going to say, do you feel like they've changed? They've changed out of recognition, I feel.
Well, and you've got a certain number of types. Because as I said to you once before, that was the class of AD to Lhasa Apsos.
Yeah.
And I still have seen them. But in the good old days, you could go to a champ show and you'd say, oh, that's Beryl Harding's breeding. That's Stephanie Hesketh Williams' breeding. That's Anne Matthews' breeding.
Yeah. You didn't need to go
And then
over them, did you?
Jean came into the breed and you could say, that's Jean Plaid's breeding.
And the Belaziers, you could spot.
You could tell them.
You could spot a Belazier dog a mile away.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't get any of that these days.
No. I know the very first litter we had, because as I say, I got this little bitch from Mary Ward, who went on to become Champion Eyes of Joy, costing me £15.
Was that your first bitch?
That was my first champion bitch.
Eyes of Joy was your first
But
bitch.
my first bitch, yeah, that was my first bitch. And then she had a black bitch there that was looking for a home on breeding terms. And I went and collected her. Now that was called Buttercup, or on a pedigree, it was Gwynfor Sylph.
Filth.
Sylph.
Sylph.
And Buttercup, who had a most fantastic personality, if you looked at her, you debated how much Scotty was in it, because it was black coated, and if she was dripping in coat, it was 3 inches long.
Yes, which was dripping in gold.
That was dripping in coat.
Dripping in gold. We never used to have the length we have these days, do we?
No. And her ears went up and tipped, just like a collie. This beautiful tipped ears. But I can remember mating her. I mated her to Breccia Funth, who was Humphrey. And out of that litter, there was a little bitch who was a replica of her mother, no coat. And that went back to Mary because that was the one she wanted. That then was sold to somebody else in the breed. And they got a very good line from it, because the first time they had a litter from that bitch, they produced a champion. So that was that one. Then as I say, I mated Buttercup to a grey dog I had from Mary Ward, who was Pantulf Pegasus, who was iron grey. Bit long, but a nice type, until you took him and ducked under the ropes at a show, and they'd say, "Oh no." And he could make a Skye Terrier look short-backed, because he could stretch himself out that far. Needless to say, I couldn't win with him.
So going back to the olden days, Ken, which dogs do you think were the most influential on the breed itself?
On the breed, the one dog I thought was marvellous was Pantros her champion, Alexandra.
Beautiful dog.
Who I thought was fabulous. He had personality, because Pam could leave him on a bench with a handbag behind him, and nobody would have touched that handbag.
Did you ever use him yourself?
I used him twice. I used him on Eyes of Joy and got a dog and a bitch. The bitch was a Busy Lizzie, who I mated. No, who did I mate? Oh, no, I mated a daughter of Champion Eyes of Joy and Pantulf Pegasus, called Rejoicing. And I took that down to Pam's, got her mated, and at the time, my father was dying and I needed to cut down on how many dogs I had. And I rang Anne Matthews and said, "Would you like a bitch by Alexandra?" And she said, "I'll only want it on breed, to breed from. I won't show it." And I said, "Well, you should do. It's good." And then, a couple of weeks later, she rang me one evening and said, "I've just been bathing your bitch. She's gorgeous."
This is Anne Matthews from the Hardacre Kennels.
Yeah, that's Anne, who's now dead and buried, as we've lost most of them these days.
So sad.
And she then rang Daphne Hesketh Williams, who was the secretary of the one and only Apso Club, which was the LAC. And Daphne had said, "Oh, all the entries went off yesterday to the printers. Give me your entries and I'll go tomorrow morning and put them in." So Silver Gilt got entered for the club show, went back home with Anne with 2 or 3 first prizes, and then Anne started to show after that. And then eventually she went on to become the first Apso bitch in this country to have a best in show at a general champ show.
This is Silver Gilt.
And that was Champion Silver Gilt
Wonderful.
that I had given to Anne.
Yeah.
And the understanding was I got a puppy back. Except Anne said, "I've got the best deal. You shall have the pick of dogs, pick of bitches. Because I've had the better deal." So I said, "Fine." The dog puppy did a lot of winning for me. And he then went off to Australia. And his first show in Australia, he won his way through into the final. And after...
Which was this one?
This was Sensation.
Sensation.
Which was Hardacre Sensation.
Yeah.
Who I say, I went out to Australia. And he was by not Pantulf at all, He was by Piplaurie Piperman, which was a champion that Anne had, bred by Sheila Lawrence, who's, I don't know where now. I haven't heard of her for many years.
Very well there then.
He did well,
Very well.
and then after the judging was finished, apparently the Norwegian judge said to Shirley, who owned him in Australia, that was my best in show winner. Except I found he had an umbilical hernia. And quite honestly, I had to think about it, because I couldn't remember if he had an umbilical hernia. Because in those good old days, if you had a puppy without a hernia,
I was going to say, if you had one that hadn't,
that was the oddity in the litter.
Yeah. It was so common in those days, the hernia, so we never worried about it.
You never worried about it. Unless they were huge, then you did something.
Can I just bring
But when they were like little marble sticking out under the skin there.
Can I bring you just a bit further up to date? Do you think the breed changed a lot when Jean Blythe imported Intrepid?
One of the things that he did bring in was he brought in larger teeth and better dentition. Because in England we had animals with very small teeth and shortage of teeth.
Yes.
Now, Requiem, my gold original one, he had, with full dentition, he had 3 teeth in his head. And I can remember one lady in the breed making up a bitch, and I know for a fact that only had 1 tooth in his head. But that is what we had.
It was a norm. It was a norm in those days. We didn't worry about mouths, did we, in those days at all?
Well, there wasn't anything there to beat it.
Do you think he improved the breed on coats and presentation? Because we never used that presentation that we have now.
Oh no. And for that you can thank Pam Trostern, Paul Stanton.
Yes, Paul Stanton was very good at
and
that.
Glennis, and then Jim Bainbridge when he came into the breed, that were really good on presentation. And art, after all these years, I am still waiting to get. I still cannot do a centre parting.
Terrible. I'm as bad.
Hopeless.
I'm as bad.
I will ask anybody as a show. Well, I did do, but then again now, with, not the best of health, and wobble too much, I stand on dogs' feet, so I don't take a dog in the rain.
Do you think the breed's changed over the years a lot?
It has changed. We've got fluffier coats with the American. But we're getting back onto better coat texture. But we've definitely got better teeth.
Do you think we've lost breed type at all?
Well, in some cases, yes.
We used to, if you remember, in the old days, we used to look at it and go, is it Tibetan?
Oh, yes.
I don't see a lot of, is it Tibetan these days? Right?
No. And, of course, in your breeding programme nowadays, how many people have you heard of in the last, say, 30 years? When they said, oh, I got 2 Perhapsos and a Tibetan Spaniel out of that litter.
Yeah.
And you could get a puppy out of a litter that you could take into a Tibetan Spaniel ring, and I defy even the judge to stand there and say, that's come out of an Apso litter.
Oh,
because they were perfect.
I've had that myself. Beautiful thing. I like it as a pet. And as it developed, it was fabulous Tibetan Spaniel.
I can honestly say never had a Tibetan Spaniel in a litter. I did in the very early days have Pahapsos. Pahapsos, you could tell a Pahapso in the making when it was a baby, because you didn't get that little line of rough going down there at about 4 or 5 days old. And the hair feet that you used to get with gloves, like a Tibetan Spaniel. Yeah. You had these gloves on. Yeah. And then eventually you started only hearing about the odd one or two.
People didn't have mixed ones. In fact, there probably is some these days, but we don't talk about them anymore now. It's a long time since I've heard of anybody.
I've never heard of anybody saying it to me. I've not even overheard a conversation.
Do you think the breed is better or worse, Ken? Or different?
They are different, but I don't dislike the breed as it is. Some I like better than others, obviously.
I think it's always been like that.
But it'll always be like that. It'll be like that after you and I've gone.
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere.
Sorry?
I'm not going anywhere.
You will be. You will eventually. The good Lord will come for you. And say, you up there.
Yeah, sure.
Or no, down there.
Or down there.
Yes. That would be a dog judge, you go down there.
Down there. Do you think judging's changed over the years?
Sorry?
Judging, do you think that's changed?
Have
you judged abroad?
Sorry?
Have you judged abroad?
Yes.
Where have you been?
Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Norway. Yeah.
Excellent.
Backs and forwards to Norway and Sweden.
Do you prefer the way they judge out there or the way we judge here? Do you like the written critiques and the verbal critiques?
You write a critique. Or at least you have a scribe and you sit and dictate, and the scribe writes a critique, because a copy goes to every competitor. One to the kennel club and one to the competitor.
Do you think we'd be alright doing that in this country?
No, it'd be too long-winded.
Because the classes aren't as big.
Because their classes are not big.
No.
I can remember the first time I went to Sweden, and I had X number of breeds to judge, and they sent me a list of judges, of dogs in the classes, and Thelma said to me, "Oh, that's sad, but never mind, they're not very big classes." And then when I got out there, I was told, "Haven't you drawn big classes? 5 in a class." And you think, you wouldn't get that in England. In any breed, because I can remember being in minor puppy as it used to be. No, special puppy as it used to be. With a poodle at Manchester Champ Show. And in the special puppy bitch class, there was something like nearly 50 puppies in the ring.
I remember when we first came into Apsos, especially the minor puppy bitch class, there would have been 30 in that, and they used to split them in half.
Oh yeah.
But the classes were tremendous. Compared with today, it's changed so much, I feel. You're lucky if you get 5 in the class now.
Yeah, but there again, I can say, like I said it to Thelma one day, about my entry when I did Crufts, which is like over 30 years ago. Because Emma was...
Is it 30 years ago?
Yes. Well, Emma had just started school in the September. and she wanted to go to Crufts, and Thelma said, no, it's not a place for little girls, you go to school.
30 years ago.
And I had big classes. Well, my entry for Crufts that year was over 200 Apsos. But you won't get it these days because it's more expensive to enter. It's more expensive to travel there. So costs have got to bring the numbers down.
Do you feel that the sportsmanship's got any better or worse or changed over the years?
You get some people...
I don't feel like people talk to each other as much
No.
about dogs. We always used to, after shows, you'll remember, we all used to stay behind and we all used to get together and we all used to go over each other's dogs.
Yeah, but the judge would come round and
the
speak.
judge would come round.
But nowadays, quite honestly, I would think I'd be wasting my time after I finished judging to go round the benching and discuss, because they don't want to know. They know.
Already.
They know already. It might be their second Apso, but they're authorities on the breed.
Yeah. How do you think then we can get more breed specialist judges? We seem to be lacking tremendously in breed specialist judges. Nobody seems to be coming through. And to be quite honest, I look around at the up and coming and I just despair.
Yeah.
I just despair. I honestly can't say you'll make a good judge next year. You'll be given tickets. Because I don't think they're there.
Well, one, you'd have to go down the open shows. But then again...
But nobody goes to open shows anymore. They don't want to go to open shows.
A local open show, no. Because I know one of our local open shows got shut down because, as the secretary said, with the entry, I couldn't justify putting the show on. And that was just a local
and
show.
they used to be the training grounds though, didn't they? They used to be the training grounds for the up and coming judges.
Yes. It was the training ground for your dog.
Yes. For yourself.
And as the person that was handling was where they gained the experience of handling. Yes, yeah, that makes a heck of a difference.
Yeah.
And I can't say I blame them not going.
Well,
because
it's getting that way, isn't it? It's
expensive.
the expense of it as much as anything else, and the cost of petrol, and I think a lot of it is just general disappointment. They expect too much.
Yeah.
They all expect too much. They don't just go to show the dogs. Everybody's got to win these days, in my point of view.
Because they know it all.
Well, yes.
They're born and bred knowing the breed inside out.
What do you think of this new judging system that's coming into? Have you seen much about it?
No, I haven't.
Very complicated.
This is where...
You take exams every so often, and even such as me and you will have to take exams.
No, I won't. I've retired.
Have you really retired from judging?
I've retired. I've retired from judging because I do believe that when people are paying something like £30 for a class at a champ show, they want a judge that could get round the ring without looking as if you're going to fall dead. And look as if, I should be at a funny farm because I can't remember what I've done 10 minutes ago.
Do you feel like there should be some age restriction then to judges?
No, because some people could keep going.
Some people are more fitter than other people and their ability's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's certain people that could have gone on till their 100th birthday.
So to round this up then, Ken, just a few questions. What is your favouriteest dog of all times? The one not particularly that you've owned, that you've judged or you've seen and you've wanted to have? Alexander.
Always has been. He, I love the very bones of him.
You take your breath away.
Yep.
That's it.
And it was personal as well because, as I said before, Pam could leave a handbag on the bench in front of Alexandra or behind Alexandra, and nobody would have dared try to touch Pam's handbag. Except I could be sitting around the ring with Pam and she'd say, "Oh, if you go back to the bench, will you get my..."
This is Pam
Across yeah. And she'd say, "Oh, get my purse out of my handbag." And I'd say, "Okay." And he used to say, "Alex, your mum wants her purse." And he'd move and I'd get the purse out, close the handbag, say back on duty, and I could go back.
This is my last question, Kenneth. What's the most memorable show you've ever judged at? That comes to mind. Was it Crufts? Or was it the earlier days?
I don't know. Because in turn, I've loved every show I've judged. In this breed or other breeds. No, I can't say. I suppose Crufts is the most memorable because it's so big.
It's iconic.
And now, of course, in my day, when I judged, you didn't have foreigners bringing their dogs over because you didn't have passports for them.
No. So what was your best of breed at Crufts?
Best of breed was Jeff Corrish's little gold bitch, whose name I can't remember now. No. And the dog ticket winner was Glenys Summoner's, what was Glenys's prefix? I know it was Livewire.
The black and white.
Yeah. But
Truan.
That's it. Thank you very much.
It just shows you.
It goes.
I've got it better than you. Truan.
Yeah.
Livewire, black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it well.
On that day, I did have other dogs that were good. As somebody said that I wouldn't put up anything American, but I placed an American champion.
You got the quality, don't you, on the day? This is the last.
I didn't know it was
this
there.
This is the last question after the last question.
After your last question.
This one. What about size these days? And do you think there is any place for measuring these days? This is
that takes me back
very controversial.
A very long time ago when Mrs. Foster said to me, "We're getting big." She said, "I think I'll get a measure made." And I said, "Well, get one made and get one for me done at the same time." And she said, "Well, who's going to be the first one to use the measure?" So she said, "I can actually put a handbag on the table. And if I know how big my handbag is, I know how big the dog is." I can remember a dog that I sent to Sweden, which I was told was undersized, and he was 10.5 inches at the shoulder. Now that was a dog that went out to Sweden, did very well in Sweden, until he was out on a walk and ran over the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound.
So that put paid to his show career and his stud career. And that was little brother to Piplaurie champion Lhasa Silvergilt.
Well, I must say, Kenneth, it's been a joy talking with us today.
Now, if you keep here for another 2 hours,
no,
I could tell you a bit more.
I know. We'll have to do that part 2. Ken Warrington, let's talk our Lhasa Apsos part 2.
Part 2, yeah.
Thank you, Kenneth.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Thank you.